Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we made sure that Festival Buddy 2 is up to date for Yule 2024. And today we're going to finish as many other things on the to-do list in Festival Buddy 2 and then release it over on LOTROinterface.com. So, as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let us find my to-do items. Okay. There is a big fluffy dog. Okay. Yes. Sorry, I got distracted with some German. Okay. So, where are we? We are in Winterhome. We are up on top of the chimney by the theater stage. We've got our herding dog from the Rohirrim Patron's Coffer. And we're going to go ahead and pull up Festival Buddy and give it a once-over for Yule purposes. Now, we've been through the quick guide before, and I may do it before we're done here, but I feel pretty good about it for English, German, and French. We did German and French offline. One thing that I was just looking over was some suggestions from Telerian over the guide for the In-League and Dale Association, and that's where I was getting distracted by the German. So, Atlee's favorite. Let's go take a look at that. Okay, Atlee's favorite. From the Comb and Wattle End. Okay. So the suggestion was expanding on it being Breeland, because Breeland's kind of big, and I think Telerian was suggesting that we go ahead and specify. No, it's in Comb. At least I think it's in Comb. LOTRO wiki Comb and Wattle. Yeah. So the suggestion was go ahead and call out that is in Comb. So what would that look like? Well, in the English version, excuse me. In the English version, we would come on in to the quick guide for In the Gale Association, Comb and Wattle, and we would specify that that is in Comb, Breeland. So if we make that change and we go ahead and unload and reload Festival Buddy, Atlee's favorite, Comb and Wattle in, Comb, Breeland. Okay, I think that is a fine change. Now, one of the things that is nice to do is do that in other languages if we can. So let's go ahead and pull up that data and see if we can't do something about that. What do we think that is? A location? I'm going to pull in a window from my other screen here. Okay. There's a lot of Comb. Let's be more specific. There we go. Geo areas, fantastic. Landmarks. But landmarks, it's listed as being comb. Is that what Delirian suggested? Okay, I gotta ask, what is this? Okay, that's a landmark. Fascinating. Hey, little one. Are you eating stuff off the floor? Hey. Nope, you're gonna come up on screen and you're gonna hate it. Yeah, terrible. Okay. Okay. Schlucht is definitely a thing, so we're gonna go ahead and pull that up. And the French seems to just use comb, so we'll be able to run with that. Yes, Cateau out. Well, she's never big on being picked up at the best of times, and this was not the best of times. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, you know what, I'm just going to make this bigger so I can see more stuff. This was on line 56. Sometimes that's a little bit easier. So, Schlucht, Breland. All right, great. And in the French version, we're going to go ahead and use comb. Okay, cool. So we've incorporated that change. I think it's lovely. And then off screen, I think that was it. Perfect. Okay. So I did want to incorporate those. So last week we left off having updated the barter list item, having double checked the quick guide, but we didn't commit any of those changes to our repository. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes reviewing those changes and committing them. So we're using fork to wrap around our Git repository. And here we're going to go ahead and start with the barter items. Updated barter items list for Yule. And that includes the Excel spreadsheet I used to generate it. And we're going to come into the barter items. Now, this is, again, kind of auto-generated from Excel. So we're going to hope that it's right. But we're just going to double check what's going on. We can see the new rewards that were new as of 2023 have been dispersed. So we start now with consumables. We have added dividers for where you find these things. Awesome. We can see new snowy evening items. We have the new rewards. Awesome. Snowy evening, snowy evening. We can see the cloak of ice expeditions. Yep, that came out of the new rewards last year. So that has a new home. More snowy evening stuff. Now, one of the things that we're trying to only pay attention to is when the lines are red, but only because of the index. And if we wanted to, we could try to write up a rule that specifies, no, ignore this. So we could have an unimportant text. That could be a regular expression. We can even have some examples here. So we know that we want it to be a open bracket, some number of digits, and a close bracket. So we're going to go ahead and go to regex101.com to build our regular expression. What we really want is the thing that explains what have we written. So if we go ahead and match that specific character, and then I would very much like to remember how to do numbers. \d. That sounds great. \d plus. 1 and unlimited times. Great. So we don't care about that. Let's give that a shot. Anything that matches that is unimportant. And if we do that, we can see that a bunch of these lines have been downgraded from doesn't match to doesn't match in a minor way. And if we say we don't care about the minor stuff, then all of these lines that are only different because this starting index is different, and that's not necessarily true. We didn't do this as specifically as we could. We could probably have done that rule to include these starting spaces. So that, to include the equal sign. And with that, we know pretty sure that we're only excluding just that starting indice. So if we say, okay, don't show me the minor differences, now suddenly we're only seeing things that actively changed. So the dividers that change from divider 1 to divider 2, we could decide that that is actually something I don't care about right now. So divider 1 and divider 2, those are unimportant. I don't care. Awesome. So the first one that changed names, that's a real difference under these rules. All these additions here, subtractions there, these additions here, all of these additions, but we can see this one changed from divider 1 to divider 2, and the starting index changed from 94 to 106. But we've told beyond compare that those are unimportant changes, and we've told it to ignore unimportant differences. And so as far as beyond compare is concerned, under those rules, these lines are identical. They're not, but for our purposes, they are. So we're seeing a lot more specifically the changes that we care about for review. Same thing with this line. Number changed from 232 to 256. It changed from divider 1 to divider 2, and yet it still registers as identical for our purposes. Okay. Yep, that's a new divider. This is new thing. Great. All of those changes look great. And because we were able to establish our own rules for what was important or not, we do not have to pay as much attention to all these other lines that are technically different, but only in a way that we don't care about. Another way we could do this is take the two files and delete all those indices or something. But it's just nicer to tell the thing that's doing the comparison what things are and are not important. And we can see with ignore unimportant differences turned off, it will highlight in blue the things that it thinks are unimportant differences. Like, hey, this thing changed from 16 to 33. Are you sure you wanted to do that? Or, hey, this 1 changed to a 2. And we can see that it does highlight those in blue. It may not show up very well unless you've got a full screen view of this. But so yeah, it is still, it understands that they are different, but we have told it that they are unimportant. Cool. So we're good with that. Let's go ahead and leave that. Commit our barter items and updated barter list items for Yule. Great. We'll go ahead and maybe shove that out from underneath my face. Commit those. We now have added comb to to location for comb and wattle. You know, I think because in the English the comb and wattle in is in comb. Comb is spelled differently, but I think because in English it plays off of that play on words. It didn't even occur to me to be more specific about the location of the comb and wattle than just Breland. Hey, it's that place in Breland that has the comb and wattle. But of course, in German, if you're using that alternate word for it, for comb, which was schluckt, perhaps, um, which I am a little curious about. Google Translate, what do you think about this? Canyon, gorge, ravine, gully, or a notch. Fair enough. Combe, British, a short valley or hollow on a hillside or coastline, especially in southern England. Fair enough. I think that captures the essence of it. All right, so the only change here is adding in schluckt. Okay. We're adding in comb, and we're adding in comb. Okay. We're going to go ahead and commit the change to hyphenate snow beasts. Fixed Yule quick guide to hyphenate snow beasts. Oh, Wolfingway says, I was under the impression it was pronounced coom. You might very well be true. Anyone who has sharp ears might be able to hear the fireworks that someone's setting off on the streets just outside our house. As Little Redhead was mentioning, it's that time of year. Gargador says, hi folks, Merry Christmas Eve from Germany. Have nice holidays. Well, feine Festdagen for you as well. All right. Sometimes I see words with defined with IPA, and I don't have an intuitive sense of IPA, but there's a website out there that will do it.
Cub.
Well, that's fantastic. I am not sure that has really helped me. Ginger says, I think they have a different definition for that. I think it's referring to the comb on a rooster. I think the comb and wattle in definitely is referring to rooster bits, but the comb and wattle is located in a place.
Coom.
Well, a place on the internet agrees, Glorfinway, that coom is maybe a better way to say that location name. That's going to be really difficult for me to do, as my English does not include that word natively. Coom.
Coom.
All right, the English dictionary does agree. All right, two different places, or possibly the same place under the covers, think that coom is how you would pronounce that location in English. Let's go to the map, Breland. So just outside of Breland, we have C-O-M-B-E, Coombe, perhaps. But within Coombe is the Comb and Wattle Inn. And Little Redhead thinks it might be a different play on words. Well, perhaps, but let's go ahead and return to code. So, fixed Yule guide to hyphenate snow beasts. Done. Okay, we have a couple of comments here. We have a debug option. What on earth? Sure. Let's go ahead and fixed comment. Okay, so that catches us up to where we were before Yule started. So what I would like to do is make as much progress on the other things we were playing around with, the time functions, the unit testing, whatever. We're going to do that for another half hour or so. And then we're going to switch focus and do a release of this onto LOTRO interface. So it's there for anyone who wants it for the next 2 weeks of the festival. And then we'll be switching internally back over to DTracker probably next. Probably not on this stream, but that way we'll be able to start incorporating some of those newer deeds for whatever release just happened that I've forgotten about. Okay. So we have Harvest Math Maze Window ID. I think it's time to go ahead and look and see what's going on with this here. Previous Maze Math Reset Hour, and we were dumping this. But I think, forget Previous Maze Reset Hour, we now have some unit testing for that. So I think because we have some unit testing, we've convinced ourselves that it is functioning well enough, and we no longer need that little output line. And then this next debug output line, I'm just going to leave it because it's already been committed in our source code repository, and it's one less change to worry about. Let's go to the maze map window and see what things we had lines for. Starting with line 162, which is where we were. We are looking at get previous maze reset hour. Do we have tests for that? That's what we were testing. Awesome. So because we have the unit tests and we're pretty happy with those unit tests, we can see all of them passed. And there's actual code in each of these. They're not empty functions. So because we have unit tests for that, whatever we were concerned about finding out with this debug statement, I think we have found out about it. Great. So going back over to our source control, the next one was line 204. This was checking to see if we can set up corner coordinates. I think whatever this was trying to do has been resolved. So we're going to go ahead and just recreate those debug outputs if we need them. And then pixels from coordinates. We were going to dump out those corner coordinates. And whatever was going on with that seems to be okay. Okay. Fine, you can have that. Cool, that brings us down to just a note here. But what I would like to do is, let's open up Festival, but I'm going to unload and reload just in case there are any changes. And let's come on into Harvest Math. And let's go ahead and look at challenging wheat. And it's going to ask us what the maze looks like. And I'm going to say it looks like number 5. And then we're going to unload, and I want to go see what was stored in our save files. Actually, okay, so I forgot to do the offset, so we're going to look at this and make sure it makes sense. Okay, let's bring this on over. Looking at plugin data. Yes. Plugin data, all servers. Let's take a look at what's in there. We have a local time offset equals 0. Okay. Let's come on in to Treebeard, all characters. This is the server settings and the character data. I think the character data we don't need to worry about. The server settings, we can see the maze ID is 5, okay? And then the ID date, hour 10, okay? So this is what I'm wondering if it should have been that. So what we're going to do is detect, we get +6, we're going to load up And we're going to come in here and change the maize number and change it to 4 and unload that and see how these things change. Okay, we have the local time offset of 6, yep. We have the maize number 4, and so what we are seeing is that if you change the offset by detecting your time zone offset, we do not go back and update the values of this. And they are 2 different settings, so we don't actually have access to the server setting for any of the other servers anyway. So I think the easiest thing might be on this page is, first of all, 10 a.m. server time. Please identify current layout. I think it would be good to say first, do this thing. First, what is your local time difference? And let's go ahead and try to incorporate it on the Tanglecorn ID page itself. So there's 2 different places this can happen. I'm hearing a lot of children outside, so I wonder if there's going to be more fireworks before the evening is out. So what we're going to do is break this up into 2 parts. The top one, it'll change every day at 10 a.m. server time. If your local time is different, maybe just copy this directly from the options and have them detect that first, and then please identify the current layout. Let's give that a try. Okay, so what we want to do, I guess that's all good, is coming into the code, and we're going to go ahead and close up that, close up this, close up this. And that can go away as well. Cool. Perfect. What we want to do is we want to find this, the Tanglecorn. We're going to find that in our strings. Yes, it's a capital T, thank you. And what we want to do is break this up into a couple different pieces. So we're going to start with Harvest Math when introduction equals, and we're going to go ahead and pull in both the German and the English. Tillian, I do like that your German translation of 10 a.m. server time is approximately 16-hour. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so we have our introduction. Then we're going to do the time zone detection. Then we're going to do please identify the current layout. So we'll go ahead and move this down. So that instead of instructions, and we're going to find wherever that's being used. Great. We're going to go with, there's introduction, and then, yeah, I mean, that's instructions. Okay. So we have explanation label, but of course that is instructions label. We also need introduction label. Introduction label. And for that, yes, we're going to get the introduction. And then the set position, we're going to go ahead and I don't actually know what's a good height for this, so we're going to divide it up into two parts. Local instruction height equals 60 because it was originally 100. All right, we'll hoist that up. Cool. Okay. So our label heights are updated there. Let's come on in and say, instead of label heights, there's going to be introduction height. Nope. Introduction height and instruction height. Okay, and then the only other question is, plus the introduction height. Let's give that a try and see how that seems. And actually, let's go ahead and set some background colors so we can get a sense of how much space they're actually taking. So set back color to a turbine.ui.color.something. Let's just go ahead and say dark red. And we'll do a dark green for the other one. That way, some percent of the population won't even be able to see it. Great. So we're going to go ahead and unload that, load it on up, and change. Okay, what I'm seeing, first of all, is that the introduction label is taller than it needs to be for the English. Let's go into the strings here, and we can see the German string is a little bit longer, but not so long that I'm too concerned about it not fitting. And it's shorter for the second half as well. Okay, so let's come on in then and say introduction height, let's knock that down to 30. And instruction height can go up to 70. Just because we had already allocated 100 pixels for this. Oops. All right, Technical Maze changes layout every day at 10 a.m. server time. And there are 5 different layouts. Please identify 5 different maze layouts. Please identify the current layout by entering the maze and selecting what you see at the first intersection. And we can see actually that that one is also taller than it needs to be. Let's bring that down to 60. let's bring it down to 50. Okay, now I am seeing that the location of the following bits is not keeping true to what we need. This thing, its size is that, its position is a certain thing, okay, and then this, that position, window top border plus 10 plus label heights. Let's check that. Okay, and we can see it's starting just where it needs to. What's going on with the 10? It's just a little extra buffer. So we have the window top border. Let's go ahead and call that an upper margin. And we can go ahead and I don't. I'm not gonna change too much right now. I'm gonna resist the urge. Okay. So this whole thing, the whole height here, is some number of pixels, and sometimes it's easier just to take a snapshot of it. Well, that is funny. I just wanted the rectangle. So we're just going to use the snipping tool. And pull it into something like MS Paint. And just tell me, how big is this? And we can see it's currently almost 700 pixels. And I get a little nervous making tall windows in this day and age because monitors are wider than they are tall. But laying this out as a horizontal window, I just haven't really wanted to make that big of a change. So I'm mindful of, I'm going to be adding another 50 pixels or something. That might push this into seriously unwieldy territory. But we're going to stick with it as it is and maybe make a horizontal layout like this, where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 side by side. We can fall back to that. Okay. The other option would just be to put this into some sort of something with a scroll bar so that it could be resized smaller. So what we want to do is we want to hoist out the what is your local time difference from the server time. But we want to first think about how are we telling when the person presses the detect button. And the answer is we are scanning for the /server time output. The current time on the server is blah. Okay. So if we go into options, we're not going to find it there. Server time. Let's go find that in strings. That's the server time command. So we're going to come on in, and that is here. Okay. So check standard chat for server time. Let's take a look at that. In the chat logger, we are filtering standard. And so we can check standard chat for server time. And if we find it, what do we do with it? That we are in the options window. But how do we make the other window aware of this? And I think an answer is break up the detection of it with the execution of what we do with it. So function handle updated server time. Now, update options server offset and function update maze ID when server offset. These feel like they are the same thing and yet different things. So I'm curious if that function is over here. We'll go ahead and do a turbine.shell.writeline just to say, hey, we are here. And same thing here. But in here, we're going to go ahead and just call the new function here. This is a very poor man's version of dispatching. We could have an event that things are signing up for, and then we could trigger that event. We're just going to go ahead and call that. And then we're going to see what happens. So the first thing we do is we hit that. We can see we get current time on the server, update option server offset 6, and then update maze ID server offset. Didn't actually save that file. Let's try it again. Awesome. We can see both of them get 6. Okay, so this is a poor man, like I said, a poor man's version of multiple dispatch callbacks. Now, do we have add callback? We do have an add callback. Let's go ahead and decouple the options window. Well, while we're here, let's decouple the options window from the harvest math maze ID window and just say, hey, you can both ask to know about this. Now, when the focus is lost, it's going to do a thing. So it's going to call save time offset. This is in the options, and we're updating settings. And I'm wondering if that doesn't belong in the globals. Not a lot of functionality in here. All right. We'll go ahead and put in the options for right now. Just contemplating where we're going to stick this. I don't want to put it into anything settings related because I don't want it to be saved out as a, complicated number representing the address of the function. So we're just going to do a thing where in globals we're going to have callbacks equals a table. And we're going to see if this works. I'm kind of making it up as I go here. So what we want to do is use our example the add callback. And in the options window, what we want to do is when we are making this, we want to go ahead and say add callback to callbacks, and this is going to be time offset changed, and if that's the case, we're going to go ahead and call we're just going to call that. And we're going to do the same thing over in Harvest Math when at the bottom of the setup, the drawing of it, we'll go ahead and add a callback, time offset changed, and we're going to do the same thing except it's going to be here. So we want to do the callback. Let's see if we actually have any calls to do callback. Yeah. There we go. So in the options when in this checking, we're going to go ahead and say do callbacks, and this is going to be callbacks. And we know this is going to be time offset changed. And we're going to pass offset. So let's see if A, it has any syntax errors. It did not, promising. And B, let's go ahead and call detect. And we can see that we still got our multiple dispatch done, and we didn't have to manually tie together two distinct parts of the system. We have a central callbacks object now with a single field in it for this, and each part was able to say, I want to know when this has changed. And then options window can say, hey, the thing is changing to this. And options window can go ahead and do this, and the other one can do whatever with it as well. Okay. Now, downside is that they are essentially doing the same thing, and I'm going to be a little sad about that, but not so sad. They're both under the covers. They're going to be setting the text and saying, hey, go ahead and save that text. So they're both going to be trying to save that same thing. It's probably fine. Focus lost. Yeah. Again, we could try to have a centralized place to let you know, hey, this is being saved. But we're just going to make it work for now. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to find the place in the options window where we are local time difference from server. Great. What is your local time difference from server? What is local time offset? So what we want is to go ahead and hoist this. This is the label. We'll get the offset itself, and my goodness. That is so much to copy paste. I do not like that. Niffle says, do you use any AI to help you code? I suppose that highly depends on what you mean when you say AI. If you are referring to the current hype that is generative AI, also known as hallucination machines, then I don't find them all that useful in the writing of code, because I do not trust them to have written it correctly without actually reviewing the code line by line and making sure that it does what I would have wanted it to do. And if I'm going to go through all that trouble to double check it, then that does raise the question of, is it any better than having just written it myself? Every once in a while, if I'm trying to rubber duck the solution to a problem, that is, trying to explain a problem or bounce ideas off of something, and there aren't any coworkers available or any other humans in the house, generative AI is a way to rubber duck the problem. But again, for that, most of the time, the solution isn't coming from the generative AI tool. It's coming from my brain having recontextualized the problem in order to explain it to a tool. So every once in a while, if I'm struggling against a problem that, for whatever reason, I don't have anyone else there to bounce an idea off of, then generative AI is certainly a way to do that, where I can genericize the problem so I don't feel like I'm sharing company secrets or anything like that. And I can be like, hey, if I were trying to do this thing and I get this problem, what's up with that? And in the attempt to explain it, to simplify it, and whatnot, that oftentimes will lead me to an answer. And very rarely, and I haven't done this very often, but rarely in the times that I have attempted this, has the answer actually come from the tool. It has come from me using the tool and then realizing, oh, okay, this is what's going on. Neville says, I agree, I think it's great for rubber ducking, but I found Copilot useful in my IDE too. It's not too intrusive. The tools that IDEs have for things like instantiating large blocks of template code where it oftentimes looks very similar. Like these are fine tools. They've been around for a while. I haven't used Copilot very much, if at all, so I can't speak on that specifically. But that's sort of the problem when you get into the, oh, have you used AI question is, well, what do you mean by AI in this context? And a lot of people are talking about AI. Well, a lot of people are talking about generative AI tools like ChatGPT, but just calling it AI in general, and that conflates it with all sorts of different tools that could be classified under AI that are not necessarily generative systems like ChatGPT. Like, for a long time, telephones, if you are typing words, they will have predictions on, hey, do you mean this word? And if you do that, it'll sometimes offer, hey, you've often followed this word by this other word. Do you want to use one of these before you even start typing? for predictive text. Is that AI? In some ways, that might actually be very similar to what generative AI is doing. And is autocomplete within a Visual Studio style environment? Is that AI? Like, what are we talking about when we say AI? But yeah, if I'm sure I will get a chance to have more experience with Copilot and have more thoughts on it in the future. But the thing I'm doing right now at work is not involving Copilot very much, so it hasn't really come up. Okay. But I guess on the topic of using AI at all, if you were talking about using generative AI systems to replace parts of your work, that may or may not work out well for you, given that you're using a hallucination machine to try to not have hallucinations. Your mileage may vary. But ideally, someone is doing software development because they find the development of software fun. And so it would be a shame to automate away those parts of your jobs that you enjoy and leave only behind the parts that can't be automated, which are the parts that you don't enjoy. Copilot may not be able to automate my filling out timesheets and my sending emails to bosses with status updates. And those aren't actually the parts I enjoy anyway. So if there was something I could automate away, it might be the parts, those types of things, and leave the writing the code thing, which is the part that I enjoy. Otherwise, why am I here? So I guess it's important when you're thinking about, can I use this tool to do a thing? Is it good for it to do the thing? Is it good for you to do the thing? So those are thoughts I have. Some of the many thoughts I have when the topic of AI comes up. Okay, so what I was just thinking is I'm not entirely sure that we even need a separate function here. It barely does anything. So we're going to come on in here and we're just going to say, hey, just do the thing. And we're going to do very much the same. And this as well. Whatever we're going to do there, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this. Args. And let's give that a try. I foolishly got rid of that. Okay. Well, we're not. Here's ID. Server offset. Okay, that's probably a better reflection of what we're actually doing here. And this is options. Okay. Just want to convince myself that I haven't broken anything here. All right, options and maze ID server offset. Great. Okay, so what we want to do is I think the reason I wanted to combine this all together is I would very much like to take the code that makes the time offset stuff, the offset from server time section, and I would like to just set that up in a separate place. Or possibly create it once and use it in both places. I don't actually know what happens if you do that. Let's find out. Okay, so we want to only have this created in one place. So let's go check out the main and just get a sense of what happens. We have options win down here. We have the harvest math main ID win over there. So this isn't really a libraries thing. Let's go ahead and make a new file. And this is going to be called timeOffsetControl.lua. And we want to make sure we remember to import it. Import cube plugins. And this is going to be time options control. And just to make sure everything's going well, turbine.shell.writeLine, time options control. Okay. So main is done. Let's go ahead. Nope. Unable to resolve it. Time offset. Well, that'll do it. Offset control. Great. Time offset control, got it. Okay, so we have a time offset control, and what I want to do is I want to take function. Oh, are we doing object-oriented stuff here? Libraries. I don't see the turbine class stuff here. Okay, I'm not going to try to introduce that then, unless there's a turbine files somewhere. There it is. Okay, we have class. Are we using it? Okay, just so I don't reinvent the wheel here, let's go into a plugin that does use that. Main win, sure. And just refresh ourselves of the syntax. Okay. So, time offset control equals class turbine.ui.control. And we're going to go ahead and have a constructor. Let's do the instance thing as well. Instance equals sure. Function, time offset control. Get instance. And then we'll just say if time that instance equal or does not equal nil, then return that instance. And we're gonna play around with this being a singleton until it does not work. So let's go ahead and set up a constructor here. And it's also going to double check. So if that instance, then return end. And then we want to do the turbine.ui.control.constructor. We want to pass that off. And then finally the instance equals self. Krulo says, heya and happy holidays. Happy holidays! Whatever you may celebrate. We're celebrating the holiday of Yule here at LOTRO. Or the Yule plugin. Okay, so we have the basic framework. And this is a case where, to answer Nifl's question, if Visual Studio Code had popped up and said, hey, it looks like you're trying to define a Lua class, would you like us to spec out the template for you? that would have been fine. I think it's good for me to go through the exercise of writing this because I don't write a lot of Lua code like this. And the more times I write it, the more I internalize it. But if this was my 700th time deriving a class in Lua, I think I'd be fine passing that off to a tool within the UI that will go ahead and spit it out. And it just says, hey, do you want it to be a singleton or not? And if I say yes, then it also gives me the get instance and all that. Like, that's fine. But I find value in the repetition up to a certain point. So, okay. So the constructor is going to do everything else that we want, and then we will just call get instance for those two places that we want to use it, the options window and the harvest maze ID window. So in the meantime, let's come on in and pull in everything for this. And then start looking at problems. Okay, so for one thing, we can't do the set parent. Hang on a sec. The set parent is ourselves. So any place where we see options, we're actually going to be doing self. And in fact, we can just replace set parent options with set parent self. Okay, we got those. We are going to want to know more about these parameters. So what is up with control width? Control width, whoops. We are going to want a function, time offset control, set width, set size. And in this function, we want to dispatch that off, turbine.ui.control. Size, self, width, height. So that's the first thing we want to do. And then we want to go ahead and call the set size of the things within us if we want this to be kind of a more reactive thing. We could just say, set the size once and forget about it, and that might be the right thing to do. But we could go ahead, we could override the set size to understand how to set the size of the things within us as well. I think I'm going to not be that generous until I know this is actually going to work. So, width, indent, let's go ahead and bring a couple of these in. Okay, what is local time offset display? That's weird. What's local time offset display doing there? I don't think it's supposed to be there. Let's double check that that still works. Okay. -4. Great. And plus 6. Okay. That's working fine without that particular line. Okay, what's going on with self? Redefine the local self. Is it? Yeah, that's fair. But I want it to shadow it in this case. Yeah, it's fine. We'll just say text box. There you go. Enjoy, coder. Okay, coming on through, looking for other potential issues. Can I assign integer to parameter shortcut type? I feel like you can. I feel like you can do that. Okay, so with those values, control width and indent, I think we are seeing y is also good. We would like the initial y. I think we are seeing most of what we need. Indent and y. Indent time offset label. Okay, yep. Yep, offset's a parameter there. Great. Cool. Indent. Yep. Cool, and this is going to be time offset control. Time offset changed. Funny thing is, if this is successfully able to be hosted in multiple UIs, and I suspect that's going to mess things up if I try it, but if it is able to do that, then that multiple dispatch that we were doing suddenly stops being a thing that we need. Okay, let's go ahead and play around with this. Now, options window already has space for stuff. So if we come on in here, and if we pull out all of this, comment that out, Control K C, then let's go ahead and look at what that looks like. We can see we have this gap here. Okay. What if we then local time offset section equals, and we're going to go ahead and do time offset control get instance, and time offset section set parent options. And the only other thing we need is we're going to go ahead and pass those values on where appropriate. we can see that didn't actually work yet. Okay, well, the things that we expected to come in did come in. Now, let's double check that we actually made it past the initial check. Great. So we're setting a bunch of parents to self. Yep, self. And we get this. Okay. So we get this section, we set the parent equals that. Sure. Turbine.show.WriteLine. And we're going to say time offset section. And that's just going to be a function, a reference, hopefully. Yeah. And if we go ahead in this constructor and say self.stuff equals 17, what I'm going to hope is that that shows up, yep, we can see stuff 17 shows up in the dump of that table. So everything there is fine. What's going on with stuff and things? I know what's up. Niffle says, do you mostly code in Lua? I mostly do not. I use Lua for plugins when I'm coding Lord of the Rings Online plugins. But my day-to-day job involves mostly languages like C#, in the past C++, and then whatever else is required to get the project done. But day-to-day it's C# for the most part. So you'll definitely see me writing brace-based code. Well, I'm doing this just out of instinct, for blah, 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 open, close, brace, and then I'll be like, nope, can't do that, then, and, yeah, Lua's not my regular, but I do it often enough because of coding of plugins for Lord of the Rings Online that I'm mostly comfortable with it, but I'm realizing this Y parameter is actually a problem because everything was based as if it was in the options panel, so it had to be lowered on down. But we know that in here, everything's relative to the top of here. So local y equals 0. We're going to go ahead and kill y in all of these places. And instead of passing y, we are going to say time offset section set position of something and then y. And then y equals y plus something. Now we happen to know in here we have plus 30 on that y, so it's going to be at least 30. We'll play around with that. We also know that things were being indented. So this thing set a position that was going in by indent. Indent, indent plus, indent plus. But we don't actually need indent. We can put the whole control indented by that. So we do not want to pass in the indent. And again, having a different function for oh, that's weird. It's doing it again. Having a different function for setting the width would be a lot more in line with how the framework works. So we could have a default width here, but any place that we actually care about that width, and I might do that here in a sec. Time offset section set width to control width. Because then we would not have to curry any of these values on through. So let's think about that. Function time offset control set width. Sure. Width. So what is this going to look like? First of all, it's going to look like turbine.ui.control set width self width. Secondly, we want to pass on any this to any other places. So time offset section label set height to 30. But we need to save this off, right? So self dot that equals this. Cool. Now we can go ahead and say self time offset width to whatever. Yeah, width is fine. Now, fantastically, we can see that was the only place that we were caring about it. Awesome sauce. The rest of them had a fixed width. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. Control width is no longer being used, so we will no longer pass that on through, which means we can get rid of that diagnostic. Okay, let's see how that feels. Fantastic. We can see the height is a little bit wonky. And that's interesting to me. Let's go ahead and say time offset section set background color turbine.ui dot color dot whatever. Blanched almond now. Dark olive green. Okay, so the height doesn't feel right. It needs to be a little bit taller. So what's going on with that? We don't actually set a height out here. The height is being controlled by this thing. So we can see the label is 30. That seems fine. We've never affected our own height. That would do it. We're using the default height. So we know we wanted 30 for the label itself. Okay. Then we have Y for the next, Y for the next, Y for the next, and another 30. So we actually want a height of 60. Okay, so time offset section set. Oh, this is where I would like width and height to be correlated. So if we go ahead and say function time off set control set size width height. First thing, turbine.ui.control dot set size, and that's going to be self width height. And then we can go ahead and set the width here and self cool. And that's going to allow us back here to go ahead and say, instead of set width, set size. And we have the width, and we want it to be 60. And we can see we forgot to actually comment out the size adjustment down here. So we're double counting that, and that gets us back to where we want to be. So there we go. We now have a time offset section where we get the current instance of that. We're doing a singleton style pattern. It's non-reentrant for multi-threaded code or anything like that, but we just say, hey, give me the thing, and we get a control, and we can go ahead and parent that control. Now here's a problem, is that set parent is going to be wrong. So we cannot do a singleton. But I am curious to see what happens if we try. So we're going to go ahead and use the same code over in Harvest Maze Win here. And this is going to be, we have the introduction and we have the instruction. So we have what? Are we using Y? We should be using Y. Okay. But that means we can comment on in and say, we're going to go ahead and put this in. What was indent? 10. And control width was a width minus the indent times 2. Yeah, okay. This window is so we have the width, we know what the height is, and we have that color still. I think we're going to get rid of that here. Great. All right, just to play around, what happens if the windowing system is lied to? Yeah. Yep, we can see the parenting system doesn't like that, as expected. So we're going to have to change course on that a little bit. But in the meantime, we have a y. Then we have y equals y plus instruction height. Okay. And then these need to be taller. The whole thing needs to be taller. Local time offset height equals 60. And we're going to go ahead and include that here for right now. Great. So we can see that as expected, the windowing system, if you unparent something or if we change something's parent, it's going to change how it is displayed. So the singleton system Note, this cannot be a singleton. So, any place where we talk about instance, we need to not do that. So, we need a new time control there, and a new time control here. Just that little change there might actually be enough to get a syntax error. Sweet. All right, harvest math maze window, invalid function call. $51. I'm definitely doing something wrong. Okay, what do I think this is saying? I'm going to move those on down. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of anything dot instance. Okay, just to finish up that. Great. Okay, so we have this, and then we have this. Now we can see it's not quite as wide as we need it to be. Let's go ahead and yeah, it's not actually going to work because there's some hard-coded stuff about the width in there. Oh, goodness. Well, let's just set the width of this stuff wider. Just to see. Yeah, that's fine. All right. We're going to document this local that equals 15. Let's see how that works. Good enough. Okay. Now, in a better world, we would, or in a better coding style, we would go ahead and make this a little bit more dynamic in terms of what width we think we have, and it squeezes itself down or makes it multiple lines or something. But as it is, it's fine. Okay, so how does this work? Well, if we do -4 and then we click out of it, then what happens? Okay, it says -4. This says -4. What we'd really like is for us to trigger that event whenever we do that change. So let's come take a look at this. Time offset control is what's making use of this. Cool. Let's go ahead and make that a class function. Okay. We at least have this. Save all, done. So when we save, time offset changed. Remember that this is coming from our detection of standard chat for server time. Okay. Right. Yes. Okay. And so we're slightly better, maybe, when we're pressing the button. But if you manually type it in, we still want to propagate that change. So let's go ahead and think about that. Okay. First of all, let's go ahead and persist a value that is not right. Okay. -3. So if I press detect, this one updates. That's good. So let's see what's going on in that function. Yeah, okay, that's not going to be right. We're doing some sort of singleton thing. Don't do that. All right, checking just for case sensitive. That was a mistake. But it's not entirely a mistake. So self dot, we can save that off. And then here, we can go ahead and reference that saved off item. Okay, so coming on in, let's go ahead and do -6, click outside, unload, reload. We can see -6 is still there, so we're going to pop open this. Cool. We press detect on one of these. We can see the both change. Awesome. So now the other half of it is if someone manually changes one of these, we would like to see that propagate as well. -4. And we click out of here, and we can see this one did not update. So let's take a look at that. How does that one work? When we see this focus lost call, what we're really trying to do is get it to trigger the save time offset. Okay, what does that do? So it would be neat if this is where the broadcast happened. We have the do callbacks times that changed, but what would be really neat is if there was a save time, if this save time offset was somewhere else that understood that it needed to broadcast that. So if we go into globals and we have a function called save time offset, then this is where I would like to see that do callback. Where are we doing that? So this is going to say time offset, and in here, we're going to go ahead and do callbacks. And just so we know, doing save time offset equals false. No, doing time set changed equals false. We're going to say doing times that equals true. And then that in false. And then we're going to say if doing that, then return end. What we're trying to do is avoid reentrancy. If we're doing a save time offset, we don't want to just get into some loop. But it'd be nice to know if it was happening before we get too worried about it. So turbine.shell.writeLine detected re-entrance to save time offset returning. We're just going to throw that in there, see what happens. Okay, so the call to save time offset is going to say time offset changed. Great. So time offset changed. We don't actually care about it in here anymore. This is going to be in the control. We want to know, at that point, that's silly. Well, we'll keep it anyway. And the time offset control is doing the callback, add callback call for time offset change. We're getting that. We're going to update ours, and then we're going to call focus lost. Focus lost is going to call save time offset. But save time offset is no longer going to be local. It's going to be the global one. And so when we call that, what we don't want to get is into a loop where we get the event, it comes in, it updates it and calls focus lost, which calls save time offset, and then we just get into a loop. So that's what we're trying to avoid with the reentrancy check. Let's see if we broke everything. So we already know that the detect button works. Detect reentrance, returning, great. Let's go ahead and set that to -4. And we can see that worked. That's really cool. So if we come on in here and change that to 1.254 and come on out, eventually, yeah, when we got the focus to change, we're just going to change that to 1. Perfect, +1. Plus 1.2. Okay. Minus 1.2. That's lovely. Okay, so the reentrancy is pretty much guaranteed to happen, so we don't need to comment on it here. Don't process a save attempt if we're in the middle of a save. If we're in the middle of broadcasting time offset changed. So that's what's going on here. We're going to go ahead and remove the debug, make it a one-liner. Okay. Languages like C have the idea of static variables for a function. That's what we would do here if we could. You know, static doing time offset changed, static bool doing time offset changed. No, stop doing that. equals false. And it's just syntactic sugar over the same thing. You just have a global variable who's only in scope during this function. So it's a little bit safer than having a global variable that's always visible forever. But it's the same basic thing. Sorry, cat's making strange noise over there. Where we say, okay, we're going to have a variable that is accessible to all callers of this function. It's not destroyed when you leave this function. And I don't know if Lua has that, but I'm pretty sure all it has is local and global. So we're doing global. Okay. So okay, doing that, then change. We go ahead and save it, and we broadcast that it is changed. And we ignore anyone trying to tell us, hey, it is changed, because we are in the middle of saying that it has changed. That is great, I think. So we're going to go ahead and unload that, reload that. We've got some color issues to come fix. So in the maze ID, I mean, it's kind of festive, but I feel like it's more distracting than helpful. So we're going to come on in here, set back color. We're not going to set those back colors. Great. Tanglecorn Maze changes layout every day at 10 a.m. server time. I feel like that's important, though, and I don't want someone to miss it. Yeah, I kind of like the dark green. What is your local time difference from server time? Offset, plus or minus hours. Detect. I feel like we need more active language here in the Tanglecorn ID window. So but is that true here as well? So if we had something a little bit different, it would be something like press detect to determine your local time difference from server time. It'd be something like that. And if that were the case, what would that look like in German? Well, Telerian, if you end up watching this, hopefully I don't butcher this too badly, but we're going to go ahead and say, click up that, click on, and what else? We'll leave it for now. Okay, so the user is prompted to set up their time difference. And ideally, if they're going top bottom in this window, they're going to click that, and then they're going to identify the maze. We'll see. Oh, that is a thing we could do, though. Is we could turn off the green background once we think you've done it. So in order to do that, we can do the same thing where the time offset has changed. So if we go ahead and add a callback, time offset change, and that function is just going to be, we can go ahead and kill that now, and that function is just going to be set back color nothing. We're going to go ahead and save off whatever it was. Get back color. And we'll go ahead and set that back once we are done. Let's give that a shot. Okay, so detect. I was worried about that. I don't want to set it to nothing, but that is a question. Is get back color a turbine.shell.writeLine. What did we save off? Nope. I accidentally typed an extra backslash. Let's come on in. So, detect, we can see the original back color is all zeros, which is fascinating. What happens if we mess with the transparency? Didn't like it. Is there like an original color? What's up with these? Well, I suppose we could pretend like theming isn't a thing. Wait a sec. What if we can do something slightly different? So if we set the back color just to introduction, label a get back color. What if we do something like that? Don't try to save it off. No, it's still the blend mode. Okay, what I would like to do is, okay, so black works. What about the dark orange? Yeah, I want something darker. Sure. Show me dark cyan. I just wanted a visual indication that you did the thing. In what world is that dark? Darker gray? I'm guessing it's going to be off-white. Yeah. Maybe I'm not expecting dark to be what I'm saying it is. Dark red, sure. Okay, so we have green, we've clicked, dark red. I don't like red because that usually indicates you did something weird. Sure, dark blue. Alright, you clicked it, great. I don't know. Hey, little redhead. Does this say to you, it identified that you clicked the thing? When you click it, the color changes. For instance, actually, it might start with 0 for one thing. So, let's go ahead and load this up again. And then you come in, and you're reading through Tanglecorn. What is your local time difference from server time? 0, you press detect, and suddenly color changes, and now it's +6. Does that feel like an intuitive thing? Or does that say, I've done something weird?
No, that's good. Insight language.
Sure. Redhead thinks the blue is good because it matches the other icon's colors. Well, theming is always a possibility, but we're going to go ahead and leave it like that. There are 3 raiders from a channel that starts with N joining us. Welcome! We are looking at the Festival Buddy plugin in Lord of the Rings Online. So, I think we're going to go ahead and leave it with that. Once you've identified your offset. Thank you for spelling that out. Apparently that was Inquiring Minds Want to Know with a couple of letters squished together. Well, welcome. So, what we're doing is the Tanglecorn ID. We're polishing that up so that it's ready to go for the next Harvest Math. So we have, presumably, the screen loads up when you first come in. In fact, let's come on in, and we're going to go ahead and delete our plugin data files. Apparently I've got that open in Sublime Text. There we go. And then we're going to load up Festival Buddy. And in Festival Buddy, we're going to go ahead and go into Harvest Math. And we're going to go to Challenging Wheat. Oh no, the Tanglecorn maze changes layout every day at 10 a.m. server time. What is your local time difference from server time? Detect. It's +6. Great. There are 5 different layouts. Please identify the current layout. Sure, it's number 2, whatever. Okay, here's Tanglecorn map number 2, and we know when it should switch over to number 3. Great. Let's go to our source code repository and start checking stuff in. Okay. Extracted out time offset control offset creation from options. So this is this part here, and what else is going on? Yeah, that was part of it. That's part of it. And that is some stuff I accidentally deleted. Great. We have the options win. We have the new control in main. We have the new import of that control. And we didn't do that yet. And this is just making that a little bit more readable. So we'll go ahead and include that. Harvest Math window just doesn't do anything about that. But we do the save time offset. That's now in globals. So we need this as well as this. Okay. So we have in our options window, yep, that's all good. And then Harvest Math added a time offset section. So that's this, that is this, that is this. Inquiring Minds Want to Know asks, this may be a dumb question. It is not, but so thank you for asking. What are you doing? What you're doing now, is that changing things in the game as we play or only on your computer? Great question. First of all, I don't work for SSG, so let's get that going right there. But within Lord of the Rings Online, we have a plugin manager which lets you load in little miniature programs that people in the community have written. So for instance, this is a program called Deed Tracker, and if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings Online, then you might know that the in-game deed log leaves something to be desired, and so the Deed Tracker tries to expand upon that. So plugins are things that you can download. Lots of them are available at lotrointerface.com. So if I wanted to, yeah, sure, why not? Go to Deed Tracker here, I can download it. Yeah, okay. I could, no, where are we going? I can download it from lotrointerface.com, or I can use something like the Lotro plugin compendium to install it. So once someone has a plugin, they can load it up from within Lord of the Rings Online, and then it will add or change some behavior of the game. But in order to first have these plugins available for people, someone has to go and author them. Someone has to write the plugin. So the changes that I'm doing, these are all within the context of the plugin, the files that are on my machine. So it only changes gameplay for me and only within the context of that plugin. And then at some point, possibly today, I'm running a little shy on time actually, this gets released, or I should say I release it to LOTROinterface.com, and then I post maybe on the LOTRO forums, and I say, hey, it's available, and then everyone can download it if they choose to. So it's a very much an opt-in system where I am making changes to a plugin. I put the changes out there. People decide or not to take those changes in, and they decide or not to load the plugin on their computer. So it's a multi-step process to get from my machine to your machine, but you could opt into having these changes on your machine if you choose. So what I'm doing right now is reviewing the changes that I have done to make sure that I'm committing the right things to the source code repository that is on my machine before going out into the broader world. So we can see all of that is stuff that we did today. So we're going to go ahead and take that. This is no, and this is where we split up those two, that one into two. Very good. Okay. And this is a to-do file change. So we don't have a lot of time left here on the stream. I am going to go ahead and try and push this change out to the LOTRO interface. So we're going to do that next. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is stash this debug flag. So we have a clean working directory, and that means that we can go ahead and unload all of our plugins, reload, and make sure that things work as we expect them to with the clean working directory. Inquiring Minds wants to know, says, at some point, I would love to bend your ear more on this. So much I want to know. Unfortunately, I have to go to work. Thank you for what you're doing. Can I send you a message later with questions? You can. You'll have better success sending them on LOTRO Interface or even the LOTRO forums. I am terrible about looking at my Twitch notifications. I can go weeks before I see them. And you can also reach out to me via email at lotrodeedtracker@gmail.com. That'll get to me as well. And there's also a Discord server link. I don't know if it's still good anymore, those things. Whether or not they expire seems to be a mystery to me. But yeah, you can find me online in several places, and I'm here most Tuesdays doing plugin development with LOTRO. So feel free to pop by next Tuesday. I know it's New Year's Eve though, so if you have plans, no worries. We'll see you sometime in the future. Awesome. Okay, so what we want to see is going into Yule, everything looks good. We have the quick guide, we have the barter window, all the new stuff that shows up that we were looking for. We turned off the debug flag, so if we go into options, the options should look pretty manageable without all the extra debug stuff in there. As I've said in the past, I do want to kind of consolidate down these this quick guide section, or actually maybe add another add tabs within here so the quick guides are in their own whole thing, but that's not going to be today. So everything looks pretty plausibly good, so we're going to go ahead and start the release process. Panna in chat asks if anyone here plays on legendary servers, and is it good to play? Yeah, currently Lord of the Rings Online has 3 legendary servers. I am playing over here on the Treebeard legendary server, which currently has, I should say, just released the content that goes into Far Anorian, North Ithilien, the Wastes, all the way up to the Black Gate, and then stops just before you get into Mordor. So that's where we're playing here on Treebeard. The group I'm playing with has gone into Far Anorian, and we're still working on the Beacon Hills before we go into North Ithilien. So yes, absolutely there are people playing on legendary servers, but the new hotness in Lord of the Rings Online are the Angmar and Mordor legendary servers, which currently have a level cap of 60 and go through the Mines of Moria. And there's lots of people who are really enjoying it because it is both using the new 64-bit server code, which people are really excited about as a potential way to address some server performance issues. Also, Mordor is located in Europe instead of in North America, and so people are enjoying having decreased communication time to the server. And it also has the Veil of the Nine mechanic, where gameplay is just a little bit more challenging on those servers because at any time you can be accosted by a servant of the Nine. So, people are definitely playing. Last time I was on Mordor, there were over 600 non-anonymous players online at that time, and that was just some random time during the week. So there's lots of people doing it. I don't know what your qualifications are for a dead server, but presumably that many players simultaneously is not dead. I haven't looked on Angmar because being in Europe, I'm more likely to play on Mordor if I'm going to play on one of the two of those. But yeah, there's lots of people who are very interested in those servers. So check them out. If you are interested in it, unfortunately, you can't just dip on if you want to play on a legendary server. You do have to be a subscriber of some sort for Lord of the Rings Online. But there are plenty of servers that you can play on for free if you want to get a taste of the game before you commit to paying. So cool, thanks for asking. Okay, so how do we do a release? Well, everyone's got their own process, but I have a Plugging Along releases folder, which is where I track the last time I released something. So we can see the last thing I released, I think, was Festival of Buddy 213. Now let's check our assumptions by going over to lotrointerface.com and searching for Festival Buddy. And we can see it thinks version 213. Great. So ideally, we are working on 214. And that's the first thing we need to do is go and update our version file. So documents, Lord of the Rings Online, plugins, and we're going into Festival Buddy. And this .plugin file, we can go ahead and update 214. And if we hit the screen arrow to refresh our list, we should see that that goes to 214. Doesn't change anything else. Everything still loads just fine. All right, let's go ahead and close the map window and make sure that's working okay. Cool. And if we go to Midsummer, I think it is. No, not Midsummer, sorry. Farmer's Fair. I want the other maze. Spring. Great. Okay. Panna says, I just asked because I played LOTRO for 12 years and don't want to play on the normal servers, and I'm interested in how many players are on the new servers. Cool, yeah. Definitely lots of interest in both Angmar and Mordor, but I can only speak for the server population that I see on Mordor. And of course, as players, we don't have full access to the information because in the social window, you will see a list of people online, an account of people online, but only people who are non-anonymous, that you haven't checked the I'm anonymous box. And a lot of people do check that for various reasons. So the numbers we see are always going to be lower than the true numbers, but we don't know how low because they are anonymous. But you can get a general sampling if you're running through a populated area, maybe Bree, maybe a festival grounds. If you just try to inspect people as you run past, you'll get a little sense of how many of them are inspectable versus not inspectable, because anonymous characters are also not inspectable. So you can kind of just do a sampling thing where, oh, I've checked 20 people and I was able to see 15 of them and 5 of them I wasn't. Well, maybe that means 25% of the people on the server are anonymous. It's not as rigorous as it could be. You kind of have to decide how accurate do I feel this information is. And of course, if you have people who are more interested in that end game rating experience, you're going to be wanting to restrict your sampling just to those people who are level 60. So, maybe the 21st Hall is the right place to be on Mordor. Anyway, yeah, if you've enjoyed playing LOTRO in the past and are looking to jump on, Mordor and or Angmar seem like really fun experiences. And there's lots of other players to play around with. Little Red Head has also linked in chat the LOTRO Letter to Players that's recently come out. I'll go ahead and pop that up on my screen as well. This is what in the past might have been called a producer's letter, although they don't currently have someone with that title, so it is just the letter to the players. And it has a bit of a roadmap for 2025 as well. They're trying to not go too much into detail in the stuff later in the year because they're worried about being derailed by things that are happening. So there's more information in quarter one and quarter two, and they express hope of coming out with an updated letter to bridge the gap between more information here and less information over here. Now, I'm excited to see what they are talking about for their deed log changes. When they started aggressively adding new areas, one thing that we noticed was that the room at the bottom of the deed log, they just ran out of room, and so they started peeling over to the side. So you can see on instances, there's 3 tabs over on the side here because they ran out of room on the bottom. And it's not the worst solution ever, but we noticed that the background of the deed log is this paper background, and they made the window wider to accommodate these extra tabs, especially Swanfleet and Cardalon when those came out. But they did not make the paper bigger, so you just have this window with the big black borders. And that was a little disheartening to see because I think the deed log in-game looked less nifty because of that change. I liked it better without that big black border on the sides. So I'm excited to see, is this just a UI revamp where they've got updated backgrounds to stretch beyond? Is this going to be functionality driven? So I'm very interested to see what they have in store for the deed log. Okay. Thanks for tossing that out there, little redhead. Okay, so we've updated the .plugin file. Next up, we want to come in here and duplicate off the previous release because what we're looking for are what has changed. And the reason I'm interested in that is I like double checking what's going into a release by comparing the current state of things and what was previously released. So on the right is what is going to be released, but it was duplicated off of the 2.1.3 release. And on the left, we have relevant files. So we're going to bring over the 2.1.4 version change. Great. And then we're going to delve into the Festival Buddy. So there are things that are not being released, and I'm just going to manually exclude them. All of these folders that either start with dot or underscore, not going to involve them. And tests really probably should have had an underscore, but that's okay. Quick guides, we had some changes. We're going to go ahead and believe that those are all great. So we're going to go ahead and bring those in. We are going to delve into, okay, the English one. English change there, that's great. Let's go look at In-League Ale Association. Apparently we didn't have a German one or a French one, and we've got a couple changes for the English one. Sounds great. What's this change? Sure. Yeah, all those are just minor updates. So we're going to go ahead and bring in those as well. Not going to bring over the tests. Excellent. Little Redhead points out they thought the letter might also be of interest to Pana because it mentions the migration to 64-bit servers, which might mix up the player base a bit as well. Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting if they just were like, hey, we're going to stand up Evernight 64, and over the course of a weekend, everyone's going to transition over, and Evernight becomes Evernight 64. I don't know if that's actually what they have in mind, though. Okay, barter items. All of that is updates. Great. We're going to bring that over. Chat logger. We are checking standard chat for server time. Great. General functions. The is your format stuff. We're going to bring that in. Great. Globals, callbacks, local time offset, and save time offset. Okay. Harvest Math Maze ID window. These are the changes we just did. They look great. main and import and import. But I am I do not want to import that unless okay, let's check out when is options win. Options win. That is imported here. And then test functions. So what we want is if show debug options, then we'll import it. But otherwise, we do not want to do that. And let's just double check that that logic works. Great. Okay, that I am willing to do. And this, yeah, that's fine. So we'll come bring over that. What did we do in maze map windows? We did a couple of things, actually. Looks good. Options window. Great. Hey, Casper. Okay, so quick guide window. We were fixing a bug there with the scroll bar. Now, one thing I haven't been great about is updating the changes log with our meaningful changes. So we can see here, it's pretty minimal. And all these things that we're saying, oh yes, we're including these, I would like to have these in the README as well. So I'm going to bring those. I'm not going to bring those over yet. We're going to need to come back to those. Okay, all those strings look good. Time functions. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and bring that over, and time offset control. Great. So that's all great except for the README. And if I had been a clearer thinker, I would have been updating that as we went. But I did not do that. So we have the 214 and the 213. So we're just going to go ahead and compare those, and with a mind for what has changed and is it documented in our README. So let's go ahead and come on over to README. 214, great. So general festivals in League added French and German versions of In League Ale Association quick guide. What else? Fixed added a missing hyphen in English version of Yule quick guide Snow Beast. Okay. In quick guides, this is localization stuff. I think that doesn't need too much. Okay, Yule. Quick guides. Is it? Or is it in League Ale Association? Okay, and Yule updated barter item list. Okay, out of the missing hyphen, all of that is great. Chat logger. Okay, in options. Incorporated code for detecting server local time offset. Yep, got that. General functions. Bug fixes. Fixed um, position detection. And this is in other languages. Let's go double check. Oh, of course, we're not doing the /LOC. But if we were, no, we're not. Okay, fixed position detection via /LOC. And this is okay, /LOC slash position and /EMP. Okay, so we have all of, yep, that's that. Globals. This is a part of that, yep. Harvest math, this was just to get that in there. So harvest math. Added local time offset detection to the harvest math maze ID window. In our main, nothing much there. Preview. Incorporate local time offset in maze into maze ID logic. Yeah, that's fine. Describing things is difficult sometimes. Options. You have the time control. Check standard chat for server time. I don't feel like that should go into options window anymore, actually. We're going to go ahead and do something about that. So, we know it's being called in chat logger, and that seems like as good a place for it as any. Okay. Does it still work? It does still work. Great. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and be changing that. But, oh, detect time zone is also an options window. Why? Where is this used? It's used there. Great. Okay. So that's going to get moved, and then some extra stuff. Cool. Quick guides. Oh, that's fixing the scroll bar issue. Yep, reset button, another covers the quick scroll bar. Yep, great. Strings. That's all a part of that. Time functions. Okay. Note, if you, during the overlap between US and Europe, entering / leaving during a period when US and Europe are entering / leaving at daylight saving time, the detection tries to the local time offset detection tries to determine if you are in the period when the US and Europe are saving time at different times. It may get this wrong. Okay. Because that's what all that nonsense is for. It also needs to be updated before 2029, or else it will not automatically detect it. Okay. And then time offset control, that's new. And great. Okay. So we have a more comprehensive README. Awesome. And now we need to come back into this view because we need to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and add everything back over. That's interesting. Meh. That's fine. Okay, we'll delete that line. We're going to go ahead and bring over these two functions. And we're going to delete them from options window. The README, we're going to go ahead and bring in over all those changes. What is going on? Yep, that's fine. Okay, so we've got all the changes we want and none of the ones we don't want. We're going to go ahead and double check ourselves again to make sure this comes up. Yule comes up. We're going to get rid of that. And the broken snowman. Great. We have everything we need. Okay. Everything's looking good, so we probably haven't broken anything, but we can double check that later. And we have our plugin along release. Now, what we don't have are updated document or updated text for the website and the forum. So let's go ahead and make that now. So we go ahead and open up, I call it website, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to go ahead and duplicate the 213, make it a 214. That's the LOTRO forums description, and then lotrointerface.com as well. Great. Really, what we're doing here is adding a summary for here. 24, 1224, version 214, and a quick summary of the highlights. We don't need everything. Updated Yule barter items, Yule 24 barter items, added local time offset support. And a few minor few other fixes. And then we can see release notes are somewhere else. So we'll copy that on up. Release notes are, we're going to keep the same link. We'll come back and fix that up later. Okay. So we have a basic theme there. Great. LOTRO forms description. This is where we have the whole thing. So Festival Day 4 is now available. It has numerous, and we can just kind of use the same summary. So this update something. Updates the Yule barter items, and cycle time offset support, and a few other fixes. So, and then we have the actual release notes. And this is where we transform the README into form code. I'm just going to go ahead and do that in a Sublime text buffer. So first, outdent everything. We can go ahead and do our opening list notation. Whoops. And we'll do that in each of the places. And we'll want the corresponding closing list notation as well. Notation might not be the right word for that. Okay. We have the close there, we have the close here, and then we'll go ahead and indent it for that. Okay, and then we need the bullet for each one. So bullet there, and then we'll just do a bullet for that as well. Make it a little bit easier. Bullet, 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 bullet. Great, so that gives us this. And we are ready to go there as well. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is prepare a zip file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a new zip file with the correct name, and it's going to be empty. So new, sorry, that's my face, new compressed zip file. And it's going to be .4. Okay, and we can see it's empty inside. And then we're going to come in one step into Festival Buddy version 2.1.4 and drag the Cube plugins folder into the zip file. And this makes sure the structure is correct, so that if you unzip this into your plugins directory, everything is great. So 2.1.3, we have Cube plugins. And then 2.1.4, also Cube plugins. All right, so we have our zip file, we have our descriptions, we are ready to go. So we're on Festival Buddy at the LOTRO interface website. We're going to go ahead and log in, otherwise it will not let us edit the plugin. Excellent. We're going to come on down here, and now that we are logged in, there is an edit button. We're going to go ahead and say it's version 2.1.4. We're going to replace with a new file, version 2.1.4. We have a description here. We're going to go ahead and replace that with our lotrointerface.com description. I just select it all, copy, paste it in here. Then we scroll on down. The images are fine. I'm not going to bother with those. Allow others to update. Of course. Love it. And we're going to hit update. Now, this is going to take some amount of time for it to decide. Oh, apparently I have 4 unread messages on here. I should remember to do something about that. We'll just put that over there. Whoops. Well, sorry, people who were trying to get my attention. And then going back to Festival Buddy, we can see that it says updated and that it's currently awaiting approval from a file admin. You'll only be able to download older versions of this file until it is approved. So what we are going to do is go over to the forums and post our update there. So just use the link that we've already gotten there. And we're going to go ahead and make sure we're logged in. We are logged in. And we're going to go ahead and... Excellent. Glad that Dornwald found that. We're going to go ahead and reply to that post with our text. Come on in here. And there we go. And if we go ahead and preview it, we can see that's weird. What's going on here? Of course, I didn't actually put the bullet points in front of each of these. That will make it look a little weird. So, just coming on in, just replacing that, come back into the preview, and we can see all of that is great. So we're going to go ahead and post that reply. This gives us the link that we need, as soon as we can find it. Share? Sure. That gives us the link that we want. We're going to come back in to the lotrointerface.com description and update that link back to the forum so it points directly at the post. And we're going to take that text and update its entry in LOTRO interface. We're only updating the entry text, not the file. And we can go ahead and update. Cool. Now, it's still currently awaiting approval from a file admin, but once it is approved, we will have the 214 update here, and we can see the 214 update post over here. My phone would like me to know it is well past the time that it was supposed to stop. Okay, fantastic. So that is how we do a release. That is a released version of Festival Buddy. I like to do it nice and methodically like that. If you find like this is a lot to do each time you do a release, you are not wrong. And many plugin developers have a much more sophisticated method of doing this. For instance, some of them will use GitHub Actions to do the publication so that they will include the files they want to include, skip the files they don't want to include, and it just packages it up into a zip file. They might be able to generate these this forum notation from README style files, all sorts of things like that. So this is sort of the entry level, no automation, no extra stuff going on. This is how I would do these kind of releases. Just know that there are more, maybe professional is the right word. There are better ways to do this if you're looking to kind of get a little bit more advanced in the release process. This is very hands-on. This is very, I'm looking at the things with my eyes and making sure all of it looks good. But you can automate a lot of this. So just bear that in mind. The release doesn't have to be this manual. But I do like some of the manual stuff, the actual file comparison, making sure that I didn't accidentally commit something I didn't mean to, all of that. And it gives me a sense to remind myself how far I've come, or not, depending on the point, how that may be. Okay, we're going to go ahead and slide that over there because apparently I have some unread alerts on the forums as well, and I should go look at those. Okay. Well, we are done with what I thought we would do, which was try to finish up as much as we could with Festival Buddy and then do a release so that everyone gets a chance to use it for the remaining time of the festival. Now, the LOTRO event calendar says that we are in Yule through the 6th of next year, but really that's just through the end of Sunday and well into the early hours of Monday morning. So we have just under 2 weeks left of Yule, which is a lot of Yule time if you are a fan of Yule. And Cord has announced that the calendar for 2025 is basically written, but is going through the polishing process, and we can expect that early in 2025. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this has been a successful attempt at doing a release because we have released something, and that'll be it. Let's see. Yep, we finished a thing. We did a release. That's it. That's everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you all here next week, though I understand if you have other things planned for New Year's Eve. But until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.